Hello, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Mark Potter, more likely known as Mark Isaac Potter. Welcome to the show. I'm trying to go over and get my timer started so I don't mess up here. Boy. All right. Started the timer. That ought to help. So, I don't know what I'm going to talk about today. This is show number 5 of a small series called What Can I Say? And this series lives inside my 2 podcasts and inside my TV show. My TV show, well, you don't need to know all that. I'll tell you at the end. I'll tell you something else instead. I've been doing another series where I read my poetry from one of my poetry manuscripts called Floating Flowers. And I also like to talk about a man named Dan Sliker, who is a country singer that I'm working with lately. I do try to help people get a wider presence on the social media. I do try to do that. So, yeah, and today what I've been doing, in fact, yesterday and the day before, almost obsessively, I'm a big nut about TikTok, and of course, you all know that TikTok is going to be banned here in another few weeks. I've got these guys here. Let me turn this off. So I'm on TikTok. I'm not gonna show it to you because I probably don't have the copyright. But what I like to do is find musicians on TikTok. This has just been I've been on TikTok for years. I do it a lot. I do it 4, 5, 6, 11 hours a day. I'm an addict. Send me to a 12-step program. Having said all that, my most recent segment of obsession is queuing up all the musicians and asking them to be on my TV show. So I'm going to do that right now. What I do is I find one and a musician, and thanks to the algorithm now, it's queuing me up with dozens and dozens of musicians on TikTok. I go in and I like their video. I put their video in my favorites. Then I repost it. And then I go into the comments and say, would like to have you on the show. My contact information is in the bio, that kind of thing. And I just, I've got a clip. Excuse me, I've got a clip on my clipboard. If it'll kick in, which it doesn't want to. Oh my God. Okay, well, it's hopefully that time it kicked in. Anyway, I love you guys. This is part autobiography, part my current life. I live on Social Security, as I said in the last episode. I live on about $25,000 a year, which, as you might imagine, is getting harder and harder to do. I'm very appreciative of getting my Social Security, although I'm afraid the new president will take it away, or the other thing they're likely to do is try to publicly trade the funds at Wall Street, so that, pardon my phrase, but the wealthy can make even more money by using these public funds that we paid into Social Security and putting them on Wall Street to make a profit. But the problem with that is, of course, as you can already guess, stock market goes up and down and up and down and up and down. And this stuff is only my opinion. My opinion. My opinion. I'm coughing. This is my opinion, okay? Not someone else's. I don't know jack about the trade system, the stock market. Getting cold. I have 2 layers on. I'm still cold. Anyway, stock market goes up and down, so our payout monthly might just start going up and down. And that's worrisome because obviously when it goes up, we're going to be real happy, but when it goes down, we're not going to be so happy. So I don't know. It's a scary bunch of stuff. This computer, I'm telling you, I'm not. Some people think I know what I'm doing on computers, but trust me, I do not know what I'm doing. I really don't. I'm much more comfortable being someone who does not know what the hell they're doing. Because I don't like making mistakes. I don't like being criticized. In fact, I have a really hard time being criticized. I grew up in Vermilion, Ohio, which is a small town. I would say it's a resort type town, at least part of it is. It's on the lake, on Lake Erie. I say it's halfway between Cleveland and Toledo, Ohio, and I think that's about right. I went to Vermilion High School, graduated sixth in my class, so top 3%. Went to college at what's called Firelands Community College, which is a satellite of Bowling Green State University. And Bowling Green back in the 1800s was first a teacher's college and then later branched out to have other things. I went there and I studied. I went to the Firelands campus here in Ohio for a year, first year of college. I loved going there. It was just 2 buildings in a cornfield. They had just built it just a few years earlier. Had some great teachers there like Dr. Joel Rudinger, who has since passed away. He taught us poetry, and I had already had a love of poetry. I've been writing poetry since I was 15, and I'm 74 now, so almost 60 years. So I did that. I did that year. It was fun. Then I went to the main campus in Bowling Green, the city of Bowling Green in Ohio, which is about 90 miles from where? I think it's about 90 miles from Sandusky, maybe, because at the same time I worked a graveyard shift at a restaurant called Cook's Den in Sandusky, Ohio, as the fry cook while I went to the main campus of Bowling Green. And that was quite an experience. And I also made a big mistake my second year because I had talked to some graduate students. And I wanted to get a degree in psychology. That was what I started out doing. And I wanted to get a BA, Bachelor of Arts. And I met a man, was a graduate student who seemed extremely smart, who said, no, don't get a BA because it's not going to get you into grad school. Only a BS will get you into grad school, Bachelor of Science. So I started taking science classes. And not only that, but for some inexplicable reason, which I will never understand, to this day, I took third and fourth level, like junior year of college and senior year of college classes instead of taking the undergraduate classes. I've never known myself to be arrogant, but I think in this case I must have been arrogant to think that I could do those classes. And of course, I failed miserably. My GPA went from 3.2 in my freshman year to 2.2 in my sophomore year. So, to make a long story short, I dropped out of college. During my sophomore year, I had gotten to know a volunteer with the Black Panthers, and they had a newspaper called the Intercommunal News Service or some such. And I hung out with him on campus, talked to him. I read the first book that UEP Newton and Bobby Steele wrote, and I found it fascinating. And I had written a paper in high school. This is how I remember it. Now, the chronology of this does not line up. Okay, I researched it decades later, and no, the chronology does not line up. But the way I remember it is I wrote, we had to write a paper in high school, like our quote unquote final paper for one class. And I wrote about the assassination of Mark Clark and Fred Hampton in Chicago, which was a bloody mess. They were, of course, Black Panthers. And long story, long story, very violent story, which I won't repeat too much. But needless to say, the Black Panther Party regarded that action, I'm being very gentle here and very generous, as an assassination and an affront to the party and all that. And I wrote that paper. And the way I remember it is they tried to kick me out of high school for that. Now, I'm sure everybody on the planet will say, no, that's not anywhere near what happened, but that's how I remember it. So then I went to college, met this guy, hung out with him, helped a little bit in circulating his intercommunal newspaper, and he invited me to go to a Black Panther meeting. And I was honored to go. I was told it was on Dorr Street in Toledo. And I got in my car on that day and I drove up toward Toledo. And I had also been studying Gandhi and his methodology called Satyagraha, or at least that's how I pronounce it, which is a nonviolent method that Dr. King and others have used. And to make a long story short, I turned the car around on the freeway. In fact, if I remember right, I went into the median grass and turned around and just decided that no, I wasn't ready to do all the things that the Black Panthers would ask me to do if I joined their parties. So I went back and I began studying more diligently Gandhi and his methods, and I came to be part of demonstrations at Bowling Green State. And then after that second year, I hit the road, I hitchhiked. And I probably didn't hitchhike more than 2 or 3 weeks, but to me, my perception is it was months and months and months. It might have been the whole summer. I don't know. I can't remember. It was very fun. I enjoyed doing it. I was surprised at how wonderful it was to hitchhike. And I made all the mistakes that a hitchhiking ingenue would make. For example, one man gave me a navy pea coat, which I'd never heard of before what that was, but it's a long, dark blue coat. And I would stand, believe it or not, that's why I'm telling these stories, because this travel stuff is, Has a lot of very colorful stories and is very phantasmagorical, but the odd thing is it's all true. I like in my fiction, and in my poetry, I like to make things up. I like to be surreal and absurd, but this travel stuff is all from my memories. So I wore this long, dark navy pea coat and I stood on the freeway, not on the ramp, on the freeway, in this dark pea coat, in the middle of the night, hitchhiking. Now, that's probably one of the stupidest things you could do, period. But once in a while I get picked up or I go to sleep. I would sleep usually, and I had like a backpack. I'll tell you all about how I left home too, but I just walked away from my family after years and years of disagreement. I had a backpack. I had a very big backpack with an aluminum frame. I had a canteen and I had a sleeping bag, all that I had bought in Ohio, and I left with $40 in my pocket. And I would sleep under the freeway. There's a ramp sometimes, a small shelf. When you have a road going over the freeway, then some places there's like a concrete abutment or abatement or whatever that is. And then at the top, sometimes there's a shelf. And I would sleep on that shelf. Not imagining I could roll over and roll down onto the freeway or any of that. So I hitchhiked for a while, either weeks or months, whatever it was. I have lots of stories about hitchhiking, and I'll tell some of those certainly. Anyway, eventually I got to Phoenix. In fact, I got to Phoenix. And of course, I had no place to live, blah, blah, blah. And these two men who were just delightful, funny as hell, students at Arizona State took me in and let me live with them in their dorm room, which I'm sure was illegal. And they both were in a wheelchair. And I just fell in love with these guys. They were wonderful. I mean, as friends is what I mean. And I helped them around town, of course, and they gave me free room and board. And I got a job at a restaurant called Hobo Joe's, which is no longer there because it was in Tempe. I looked it up, and it has a historical presence on the internet. What time is it? God, okay, it's 7 minutes left. It has a historical presence on the internet, but it's been gone a long time, and they built whoever builds these things built apartments or condos or something on that street. I think it was maybe McAllister. No, I don't know which day. McAllister was the small street where the church was on. I lived later in the back of a Lutheran church as the security person for a few years. That thing's not going down very fast. So anyway, that's kind of an overview. I didn't know I never really know what I'm going to talk about, but that was an overview. It was very, very fun to be on the road. Met a lot of fun people, both hitchhikers and drivers. Had a few close calls, of course, like any hitchhiker would. I don't know. What else can I say? So got to Phoenix, lived with the two guys. I think the next place. Well, I lived at 16th and Thomas in Phoenix itself for a while, in a boarding home, room and board place. Well, that was fun. It was a very dilapidated place, but it was fun, and I've lost my virginity there. Although I'm hesitant to go into details about that on here. This show on the TV station airs at 4 in the afternoon, so I probably shouldn't do that unless they put it in what we call safe harbor hours. Safe harbor hours. Anyway, what else? So I got a job at Hobo Joe's, and I was the fry cook. Yeah, you remember I had a job as a fry cook in Sandusky when I was in college, and it was fun. I met a very interesting man who was like the head fry cook, and we had a promotion at the restaurant. All the pancakes you can eat on Tuesday morning from 6 a.m. to 12 noon for 49 cents. Yes, this is real. Okay, I was the fry cook. I was the one who had to make the pancake batter, who had to put the pancakes on the grill, who had to flip the pancakes, take them off the grill, put them on the plate, get them out to the window so the waitresses could pick them up. And I learned how to do that rather well. And you had to do it so fast that you could not put your spatula completely under the pancake. You had to learn how to flip it. Go along. It was like 4 or 5 in a row, and I had 3 or 4 rows. And you would just flip it and put them on the plate, put them on the plate, put them on the plate, get them out the door. And I did that for 6 hours on a Tuesday, and I worked other shifts. And frankly, it was fun. I liked doing it. Being a fry cook is relatively easy. You just take something out of the freezer and throw it in the grease and put it on a plate. I mean, it's a little more than that. I learned also that motion you make to flip an egg to get it over easy. Learned how to do that. Very fun, very, very fun. So I'm going to start wrapping this up. I want to thank KMVT, that's MV like Mountain View, KMVT15.org television in Mountain View, California, for all they've done for me over the last 23 years, teaching me television, teaching me how to be a producer. I urge you to find your local community access station and learn television there. I know people nowadays think, well, I already know enough. I just use my iPhone, and that's true, but you can still learn a lot and get some more depth by working at a TV studio for a while as a volunteer. So, yeah. So I want to thank my friends. I want to thank my friend Jim, who I don't have permission to put his last name in here, but he helps me with my show. I have like 150 shows on KMVT 15's YouTube channel for my show called In Our Community. And I've got about 100 shows on another channel called Mark Isaac Potter Presents. All right, kids, I'm going to wrap this. I'm always afraid of going over time. On television, you have to go to 28, 30 minutes for a half an hour show so they can put whatever they're going to put in between shows. Thank you so much. I love you guys. I'm gonna cut this just so I don't mess up. Talk to you soon, okay? Take care. Thank you.